You're listening to the Blood, Sweat, and Business podcast, featuring real business owners telling real stories about their real business experiences. Here are your hosts, John Chiappetta and Eric Jorn.
All right. Welcome to Blood, Sweat, and Business. Today we have an extra special treat. We got two guests on today. We got Jimmy Lea and Jennifer Hulbert from the Institute for Automotive Business Excellence. And Jennifer also owns Service Plus Automotive in Kelsium, New York. Welcome.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Yes.
We're super excited. We got a little party today. We're gonna dig into to Jennifer's shop and a little bit about the Institute today. Jennifer, hey, let's just jump right in. Tell us about the shop. How'd you get started? Where'd you come from? What's your background?
Sure. Well, I got started due to my family. So my dad opened the shop in 92. After graduating college, worked outside in the auto industry as an HR manager for a new car company. Was working an hour away from home, wanted to start a family. Dad was looking to expand the business into where we are now and to build a new location. Completed that in 2001. And I joined the business then and been, upwards ever since. So my dad pretty much semi-retired in 2008, and I've been running the day-to-day business since then. We've grown exponentially in that time frame. One of the things that Eric and I talked about a couple of days ago was getting involved with a coaching group and a 20 group was definitely the reason for our growth and understanding our numbers. So
when did you start? When did you start with the 20 group, Jennifer?
In 2004. So it would be 19 years this fall.
Okay. So 3 years you're trying to do it on your own and you get into the 20 group. And then what? I mean, what is it that makes these 20 groups so powerful?
Most shop owners coming into the 20 group are managing their business out of their checkbook. And if you know anything about managing a business, that's a very slippery slope. So determining that, yes, I have, X amount of $1,000 on my checkbook, I'm profitable, but having no idea what your real profitability is. So understanding gross profits, understanding things like why average repair order is important, what benchmarks are for parts and labor gross profit, total gross profit, expense control. That's usually a huge eye-opener for a new person coming into a group is I didn't realize I was spending all of this money in all of these areas because I wasn't tracking any of that or didn't have a really detailed profit and loss statement. So those are the areas that I think are most eye-opening in the beginning. And I had a human resource background. I didn't understand a lot about financial numbers. Numbers scared me then. They don't now. More spreadsheets and the more numbers you can give me, the more I love it. Mm-hmm. And I never thought I'd say that. So I think that's one of the big areas of coming into a group of what people learn.
Interesting. So now that you've even given out this information, we're telling shop owners, learn your numbers, know what your gross profit is, what your effective labor rate is. So even putting this out there, why is it that people still gravitate to these groups if they know, pay attention to my numbers?
Because you can be told, pay attention to your numbers, but not how to do it and not what they mean. So you throw out the word effective labor rate. If you don't know what goes into that calculation, you don't know what to pay attention to. So you don't know to look at labor sales and billable hours or sold hours. You don't know how to affect that if you don't know what the calculation is. The other thing for a 20 group is you have, in our groups are around 20 shops, you have 20 other people or more that you can go to get help. So it's not you just standing out in the field all by yourself, not knowing, which direction to go next. You have 20 other people to call and say, hey, I'm running into this issue. Can you help me? Have you seen this? Have you done this? And that's not only for the financial numbers, but the whole aspect of running your business. I mean, hiring procedures, standard operating procedures, service advisor training, technician training, hiring techniques, how to advertise, how to market. I mean, there's more to running a business than just financial numbers.
Yeah. So there's a high level of accountability with your peers.
Yes.
Yep.
But then there's also learning from your peers and soundboarding off of your peers, because they've been there, done that, and you're working towards getting to that same level. So do you find that there are some within the groups that are the best of the best, they're top of the top? Do they need to advance to a different group? Do they need to advance to another group? Or do they stay with those like-minded shops?
I say that they stay with the like-minded shops, because then they become the teachers, and there's a lot of reward in giving back. One of the things I haven't talked about is accountability. And we haven't talked about that yet. So you can be the best of the best, but you still need to be held accountable to meet the benchmarks and to meet your numbers. I'm still a perfect example of that. So yes, I'm owning a business, part of a 20 group, but I'm also now coaching 20 groups with the Institute. I still need to be held accountable, because we're humans. So unless someone's going to say, hey, Jennifer, your parts gross profit slipped last month, what the heck, better. Well, I knew it, but did I take the steps to change it because life happens and you're busy? Yes or no. So we see a lot of members staying in for a long time because of that accountability aspect and being held to their numbers, but also the opportunity to give back to the industry and give back to the process that helped them improve their business. That's one of the reasons that when I talked, and found out that Kent and Cecil were looking for another facilitator and a coach, that I raised my hand. I thought I would love to give back to this industry, because they've done so much for me in my business.
Nice. Yeah, and did I just hear you say that not only are you a facilitator with the Institute, but you are also part of a 20 group and you are being held accountable as well?
Yes. Yep. So I've been a part of the Institute's 20 groups. It was RLO training prior to them merging with the Institute. But yes, so my shop's still involved in the group process.
Nice. Everybody needs a good coach.
Yes.
A good trainer. Eric, do you have a coach and a trainer?
We do. We work with we also are in what's called a financial review group. So a little bit different than a 20 group, but pretty much the same thing. We all line up our P&Ls on a big spreadsheet side by side. We go line by line through them. And then we review processes, procedures, changes, staffing, all sorts of just different environmental issues that we're dealing with as a business. And to be honest, almost every business has the same type of issues.
Yes.
So we're all dealing with staffing. We're dealing with inflation, price increases. We're dealing with, hey, are we pricing things correctly? Are we hitting the correct margins on labor? We don't sell parts, so that's the one thing where we get a little different. But otherwise, it's all not that different. The cost creep happens. For us, software costs have exploded. Our software costs have gone from what was a fractional percentage to 10% on a P&L. It's a huge item. So now us managing technology costs has become a huge factor. Much like shops. I mean, for a long time that was credit card processing fees, where that made a huge impact. Where it was a non-existent item 20 years ago, to now it's 3% on the P&L sometimes. And hey, how can we help manage that? Or do we have a good processor? Are we handling things the right way? And that's where those 20 groups or financial review groups or just a coach in general helps. The
ideas of 20 different people are much better than one.
Totally.
True. 2 sets of eyes is great. 20 sets of eyes, it's even better.
Exactly.
So I worked in a shop for about 5 years, and I'm wondering how somebody who worked in HR adjusted to working into an automotive repair shop. How was that adjustment for you?
It's the same but different. I mean, you're still managing people, whether that's employees, whether that's customers, parts vendors. I mean, outside vendors. You're still managing people, and I think the HR background gave me that that comfort level of standing in front of a group or, being confident in what I know. There was a lot of unknown in the beginning. I mean, I completely stepped out of my comfort zone and sitting in the front desk and trying to sell a set of brake pads, which I knew that my vehicle had brakes on it, but I couldn't tell you the difference of the parts at that point. So there was a big learning curve, but I'm very organized. I'm very detailed, and that just all kind of fell. Those are the attributes that you look at in a manager, I think.
I agree. I actually think some of the most successful shops that I work with, the owners don't come from a wrenching or writing background. They came from some other background and they got brought back into the business. Maybe the similar situation. They had a family business. They went away and did something else, got a different perspective, and then came back in. I think a lot of our owners that are wrenchers, right? They want to be working on cars, not running a business. Or if they're writers, they're salespeople. And we all know salespeople are not the best organizers. Or they're motivators of people. They might not be the best with organization and holding numbers accountable. So those who come from really outside of the industry backgrounds end up very successful. That's cool to hear.
Yeah, Eric, that's a habit that is the hardest one for us as an institute to break, is those technicians that become managers or owners is breaking that habit to want to be the technician, to always have the answer or want to be that person. Same with an advisor that becomes an owner, is you can't be the advisor anymore. Now you have to transition to be you can't be the advisor anymore. You have to be the owner. So it's taking that and making that transition to be the owner. It's a completely different set of skills as being a technician. So where you're working with successful shops where they have not come up through the industry, that I agree. Those that have been up through the industry, there's a beauty and a love and a skill level of repairing a vehicle, having it run and go out of the shop. Same with taking care of customers. Now you got to work on the business, not in the business, but on the business. Quoting a little bit of Michael Gerber there. Working on the business. It's a completely different skill set.
It is. And it's one, yes, I came in on a kind of an entry level before I took ownership and manager duties. And that's where I struggled. I was like that technician turned owner of, I'm a doer, let me get in and get my hands dirty and I can make the most impact and I can quote unquote save the company money because I'm filling that position. But when you take yourself out of that doer position or working in the business, it's changed our business in the past 3 years because I made that conscious change. And it took a while. The book Traction in the EOS model was the reason that I took the big leap. I think chapter 3 or 4 in Traction is called Letting Go of the Vine. And I think I read the stupid chapter like 4 times. Like, I've got to get this through my brain. I have to be able to step out of this role and put people who are smarter than me in the positions that they need to be in, so I can take the step back and work on the business. And I mean, we've grown significantly in the past 3 years because of that. So but that mindset is so hard. It is, especially for a technician. They're the doers. They're the ones that I just give me a job and a task and I want to get it done. When you're managing a business and owning a business, it's a little bit different. Yes, you still have tasks to do, but they're not as easy as changing a set of pads and rotors. It's a little more involved in that.
So do you sit in the visionary seat or the integrator seat?
I sit in both right now. We're a staff of 7. I'm hoping to give up the integrator role someday, but right now it's just me. But I'm not the service advisor. I'm not the marketing person, and I'm hoping very soon to give up the accounting or the bookkeeping role. So
awesome.
Yes.
So speaking of coaches, we are our firm is actually right now working with an EOS implementing it within our firm, and it's even just running a level 10 meeting. We get so much more accomplished out of just that meeting structure than we have in the last 5 years. I feel like it's just that organization structure is so good at just getting things accomplished. Traction.
Yep. It gives you a roadmap of how to do it.
Yeah. And that's the book.
Yes.
The EOS book is called Traction, and everybody needs to go read it.
And for
And
those
just read it. You just start it and read it. I think I started it 4 times before I actually made it through it, but my mind's just starting to race with all the ideas, but just get through the book.
And if you have a lower attention span, they have a condensed version called Rocket Fuel too. So that's an option if you want to get a more of a summary and then move into the details.
We started with what the heck is EOS? That kind of makes everything a little more elementary. So
we're in the process of getting that rolled out to all of our staff so they can understand essentially what's happening. We want everybody essentially rowing in the same direction. Mm-hmm. There's a really good quote, and I'm never going to remember all the words to it, but if everybody's rowing in the same direction, there's nothing that you can't accomplish as an organization. So that's so important to get buy-in on changes, anything that you might be implementing with your team. So I can do nothing but applaud you for implementing that system within your business, and it sounds like it made a huge impact.
Well, it did. And where did I find the idea? My 20 group. So we actually did a book club in my group process, and it changed lives for, I think, 4 shops who have really taken the whole system to heart. So, and you can see that in our numbers.
Wow. So you came into your family's business, and now you're in the process of transitioning ownership to you.
Yes.
And Dad's still involved in the business. Talk about that dynamic a little bit for us on what it's like to have that essentially the torch pass, because that's always a hard concept for a lot of soon to be retiring owners, but then also the up and coming person to step into that seat and fill in that role and find all these different things that an owner has to know, understand, and handle on a recurring basis. How did that look for you?
There were a lot of really uncomfortable family dinners in the beginning. Not going to lie. His ideas, my ideas, new technology, new thinking, old ways. What we, I think, finally came to realize is both have an impact and both have a role. We just need to mesh the two together. Now, do we do that 100% still correctly today? No. But coming to that realization that we both have different ideas, but they can be as good as each other, and how to make it work. My dad had the vision of starting the business in 1992, grew it to the new location that we are now, that we've been in for 22 years now. Seeing that a 3-bay, old gas station model just wasn't going to work. We're in a 7,000 square foot building now. So wow. He definitely had the vision of what it could be, knew that he needed help in a lot of different areas. He's not the financial person. He's not a marketing person. I had some of the HR background for hiring talented staff and then meshing those two together. He's been out of the day-to-day activities for more than 10 years now. So a lot of this happened then. So to remember all the little points, I don't really remember. But I think having the openness to talk about the different ideas and making them both work. There are some multi-generational shops that are involved in one of my groups that I facilitate for the Institute. And it's hard, and I can see their struggle. And I remember having that. And I think taking the step back and taking the deep breath and saying, okay, this is our goal. How are we going to get there? What is your role going to be? And what is my role going to be? And if we differ in our opinions, how are we going to manage that? Again, there were some really tense family weekend dinners and barbecues during that time. But I'm proud of what my dad started in his vision then. He's proud of where I've taken it from then till now. So if you keep your eye on that ball, I think it helps some of the uncomfortableness of, no, we need this piece of technology, or no, we need this piece of equipment, or, I have this idea for this process that your new process being me, that my dad comes in and says, you didn't think about this. Well, being open-minded to take that constructive criticism and that idea and then seeing if we can make it work. So I don't know. That's kind of my story.
It sounds like there's a lot of grace in those conversations to say, okay, I'll listen. Tell me more.
It wasn't that way in the beginning. I mean,
No.
he's strong-headed. I'm strong-headed. We both definitely have our ideas and are opinionated in our own ways. My mom says that the two of us are very much alike. So that's good and bad that in that aspect. But there does need to be grace. Yes, definitely.
Yeah, that seems to align with a lot of what I've heard from others that have transitioned a business from their parents, especially in the automotive repair industry, where the weeds kind of could get a little frictiony, a little messy. But then when everybody steps back and they look at the big picture, like, hey, my dad started this business, he grew it to what it was. And then that parent really appreciates watching their kid take it to the next level. Yeah. And that family succession it makes for such a great story. And, a lot of shop owners out there are doing this exact thing right now. And they're probably at that point where they're butting heads and they're trying to figure out how do we make this work and enjoy our family dinners and barbecues on the nights and weekends. And, just listen to that little bite. I think that'll go far for them.
I hope so.
One thing that we've seen a lot in our experience working in the automotive industry is a lot of women-owned shops. It definitely adds a new dynamic as most technicians are male, and that relationship can be a little frictiony at times. How has that experience been for you? And tell us a little bit about that.
Now, I do not have any of those issues, but I have hired every person that works for me now. When I first joined the business, I was the young, early 20s, different ideas, old school ideas with some of the older employees. So it was much more then, but I have a level of respect for and from all of my staff now. So that doesn't really come into play. Confidence is the number one thing that just squashes all of that right in its place. And that's with customers and with employees. So we'll have, the farmer down the road, I live in a very rural area, come and, let me talk to one of the guys out the back because you can't possibly have any idea of what my vehicle is doing. Well, I've written service for almost 20 years. Mm-hmm. I can tell you the function of pretty much any part on a vehicle. And if I don't exactly know what it does, I know where to go get the information. So just being confident, but yet not cocky, I think is the key. If I have an employee who has a disagreement with me, well, let's talk about it. What process failed in making your job more difficult, or what is the idea that you have? Can we implement into any of our processes? With the customer, I do know what I'm talking about, and I try very much to not be cocky, but try me. And I've had that conversation with customers and gained that respect and have customers who come back to us 10, 15 years because I stood up for myself. So not falling back and just saying, oh, yes, this is a male-dominated field, I'm going to step back because I'm the woman in the room. That's not me. That never has been me. And my first job was with the Carbon Auto Group, a new car company, 7 stores, 400 employees. I walk in 22 years old as the HR person in the management office with Don and Al Carbone, who are the owners. We had 7 people in our office, and they said, here's your department, run it.
Wow.
So that was my first experience with, okay, let's jump in with both feet. And that's just my personality. That's how I was raised. And I have a very strong-willed mom who's taught me that from a very early age. But I don't have you're the woman, I'm the technician, because I've hired them all and worked with them for so long. So I have a very good tenured staff. I don't know how I would handle a situation like that, they probably wouldn't be hired or wouldn't last very long if that was the confrontation, because we're a team. There's no I in team, and I take that very seriously. I take their ideas. We make decisions as a team. We make processes as a team, and that's just how the business works for me. So I hear that a lot of questions. You're a woman in a male-dominated field. Yes, I am, but so what? It's just so the way that it is.
Exactly.
Well, so you talk about being 22 years old, thrown in the deep end of a swimming pool, and it sounds like the deep end is sink or swim. You're either going to make it or you're not. Here's your department, go for it. Here you are thrown into a family business, kind of a deep end situation again. What challenges have you faced as a business owner that you would warn? That you could advise other business owners? Make sure you pay attention to this area. You'll avoid a lot of headaches if you pay attention to this area. What's one of those, or two or three of those areas that you would advise owners, an upcoming owner, to pay attention to?
So before I started to work for the Institute, I gave this advice: get involved in a 20 group, because you don't know what you don't know. So there are situations that you have no idea how to handle, or that they could even be a situation, where getting involved and having conversations with people who are running the business and who have been tenured at it would have. I think knowing your financials is so key, because you can get in very sticky situations that you don't know. You can have a warranty issue that's a very large claim, and you don't have a lot of reserves in the bank, and that can wipe out your reserves, and then you have payroll to do on Friday. So I think knowing the financials is the first place that I would start. Working with an accounting firm or your accountant can get you to a certain place. If you're working with an accountant who doesn't have automotive experience, they may not know what areas to have you focus in, and to make sure that you're writing tickets at a profitable level. I think the financial aspect is key. I really do. And again, I was very young in my career, and well before major manager or part owner, that I have always been in a 20 group. So I don't know what it's like to not be, and I cannot imagine going through all of these past 19 years without the group process.
It's got to be pretty lonely as a business owner, to not have that hand that you can go out and ask questions and what do I do? I mean, what I'll see with a lot of young shop owners that didn't either jump into a coaching program or a 20 group or something where they had that resource, right? Most of the time they wrenched, right? They're a technician or they did something along those lines, and they opened up a shop. They said, I'm just going to do this on my own. And what we oftentimes see is they're not handling payroll correctly. They're not remitting the sales tax that they're either not charging or they're collecting and not sending that off to the government. So now all of a sudden, they're a year or two in, they've never really worked with somebody that, maybe they found somebody to go do their taxes. They got their aunt doing their books. Just they got this random mishmash of stuff because they just wanted to go fix cars. Yeah. And all of a sudden they're 20, 30, 50 grand in the hole because just in taxes. Right. And this is to a taxing authority that could shut down their business tomorrow. They could revenue agent from the state could walk in and close your doors on you. So having that resource, right? You got to have a trusted advisor somewhere, right? Mm-hmm. Whether it's you coach, you got a mentor within in the 20 group that you're in. You need to find that person that can help you along the way. And oftentimes it's stop and think about, what is my plan for my business, right? Before you even open your doors of a shop, you should have what's my first year going to look like for me from a financial standpoint? Can I even afford to live like this? Can I afford to keep my doors open? How do you even say it? I'm actually trying to think about if I'm a shop owner or I'm starting a brand new shop, what what would I go do? If I had none of these resources, how would I figure out what to charge? What's my hourly rate, right? How should I mark up a part? And those are two of the most basic things you need to know to start a business.
And most shops don't. They think, okay, what do I need to pay my family bills with? So I need to bring in X amount of dollars of sales,
Yep.
not profit, but sales, a week. And yeah, that I was fortunate. My dad had a very good trusted advisor. He made one error on a sales tax return and never did again. So I didn't even think about tax liability because that for us, knock on wood, has never happened. But again, it goes back to you don't know what you don't know. So getting yourself in front of someone who's number one, smarter than you and knows what questions to ask is important.
Definitely.
Especially when you're starting a new business.
Definitely when you're starting a new business. I mean, even down to something as simple as having insurance, the proper coverage. I've seen new shops come in, they don't even have insurance, and you're working on, 5, 6, 10,000 pound bullets that go 100 miles an hour. It's kind of scary to think about that.
It is. Yeah, there's so many aspects.
What's the number one, if you had to put something down as your most impactful thing that you learned inside of a 20 group, probably more specific than just looking at and understanding your general financials, what's that one thing that you could say, this is what really made things click and turn the page for me working with that 20 group?
I don't know as if I can say there's just one. Knowing, I don't know if I can even answer that question. I mean, there's so many things that I learned and I mean, that the financial numbers and setting up our profitability centers is important. And once you get those, there's still layers. So Jimmy, you said effective labor rate before. That's completely different than labor gross profit or average repair order or hours per repair order. So there's many different layers of the financial numbers that all affect your profitability. I don't think there's just one. There's been so many conversations in 19 years that have helped form the manager and the owner that I am today that I don't think I can answer that.
You hit on a lot of good ones, though.
Yeah, let me propose an idea. And I've seen this happen for a lot of shop owners. And Jennifer, you're in these 20 groups. Tell me if you see this. It's the owner that has it in their head that they can't do it.
Oh, yes.
And then they get with their friends, their peers that are saying, Joe, raise your labor rate by $10, $20, $30. Oh my gosh, no, there's no way I could do that. But then they do, they agree to it, right? And the peer pressure is solid. Nobody complained. Guys, nobody complained. It's been a month. Nobody complained. I'm going to raise it another $10. Nobody complained. Nobody said boo about it. I'm going to raise it another $10, another $10, another $10. And now they're in an absolutely different game where before and to now today, they're making an extra $60 an hour.
I'm one of those people. I mean, I fought that in the very beginning. And now, I mean, I just did a $17 labor rate increase 2 months ago, and that was on top of probably 25 the year before, because we need to make profit. One of the other things that you kind of alluded to is, well, I can't do that in my market because my business is so much different than your business.
Oh, yeah. We're not the same. We don't have the same markets. We don't service the same customers, the same vehicles, the same. Nothing's the same.
No.
But yet, everything is
100% the same. Yes. And the trust me, just please try this and trust me. If you trust your coach or your advisor or your financial planner, it works. They've seen it. Again, we're not out there doing anything different that our 20 group members aren't already doing. We're all doing the same thing. So But I just talked to a group member this morning. Well, I can't do that. My market's different than yours.
Yeah.
It's not.
Yes. We just brought on a new client, a new customer to the Institute. And I'm not going to tell you who it is. Their labor rate was quite low for the industry that they're in and their diesel shop. By the time we're finished here in about 3 to 4 months, I believe you're going to see a $90 an hour increase.
Whoa.
Does that tell you how low he was to start with?
I bet you I can guess the number.
And the struggle that had to be at that level. Oh my gosh. Oh, in fact, I'm thinking of a second gentleman also in the diesel and construction industry. His pricing right now is the same as all general labor. He needs to bust that up by at least $100.
Wow.
If not more. Yeah. And we have this discussion with our members all the time. Look at the electrician rates. Look at your construction rates, your plumber rates. I mean, you can't have anyone. Yes, it's mobile. You know, they come to your house most of the time, but $250, $300 just to walk in the door. And they don't have anywhere near the overhead that our shops have with tools and equipment. Knowledge is the same. I wouldn't want to be in any of their shoes and do what they do, but just we undersell ourselves so much in our industry. So much.
And then we don't even charge for a diagnostic.
Yes, we do.
Oh, but we do now.
Oh, yeah. No, that tide has changed.
Yes. Yes. Diagnostics are not free in my shop. And they're not discounted if you do the repair. It's a standalone fee.
Good.
Yeah, we have a term for those who are apprehensive to change their pricing or make a change like that. It's different, you know, those diesel shops that you just brought up, right? I think that's just a lack of knowledge, right? A lack of awareness of what the general market should be charging. But those that are fearful to raise their prices because they think they're going to lose customers or my market can't absorb that. I call that head trash, right? It is you're fighting yourself. I mean, that's all you're fighting. You're not fighting your customers. You're not fighting your market. You're fighting yourself on that. And you just need to get past it, right? You got to understand what your value is, right? I'm going to get your car in. I'm going to figure out what's wrong with it, fix it right the first time and have you back on the road in a very reasonable amount of time. And you're going to have a pleasurable experience doing it. Yep. I mean, that's the value you provide and that's what you need to charge, not for what you think it's worth.
Well, and we have a lot of shops with the dealers less than I am. So what? You provide so much different experience and level of customer service and value to a customer than any dealership can ever do. So my goal is to be more of them constantly because I bring that value, but we also bring that value out to our customers. Yes, you may be paying some more money here, but this is the value you're getting. We have a shuttle service. We have loaner cars. We have a 3-year, 36,000-mile nationwide warranty because we partner with vendors who offer that type of service and who have the similar values that we do. We are going to be here for the long haul. We're not the mom and pop shop who have a $60 labor rate and need to go up $90. We've been here for 30 years. We do and make business decisions to make sure that we're going to be here another 30 years. We're investing in tools and equipment. We believe in training our employees. We believe in marketing to our customers and offering all of the amenities that we do. And I think a lot of shops are afraid to boast about the things that they offer and differentiate themselves from some of their other competitors, especially the dealers. I mean, I'm next to a military community, Fort Drum, and our base is very transient. My customers are usually there for 3 to 4 years, but I'm capturing them when they get there because of all of the things that we do, the positive Google reviews that we're receiving, our SEO, that they're attracted to us because we're good at what we do, and we ask people to tell other people that we're good at what we do. And I'm not afraid to do that. And shops should never be afraid to do that. Boast about what you do and why you're different and why you should never go to the big they and come to you.
I think that was probably some of the most insightful things that we talked about here. Still, my favorite is I want to charge more than the dealer. I love hearing that. I can't tell you.
Go ahead.
I can't tell you how many times I hear, I'll be more than the dealer then. My response is good. Exactly.
You should be.
I need to charge what we need to charge to make us profitable, to make sure that we're still in business in 30 years. And that's investing in the tools and equipment of today, electrification, hybrids, diesels. We're not a diesel shop, but we need to be. It's a different market. It's a different tools. It's a different equipment. It's a different technician level. We haven't even talked about technicians. I mean, there's such a shortage that if you don't have decent pay, good tools and equipment, a great area to work in, you're not attracting that high level skill. And we're not going to be in business if we don't attract that high level technician and keep them and make them stay. I think my least tenured technician is 3 years. And that says something. I mean, my most is 12. That says something about the type of business that we run, that they're staying with us and excited about all the technology and training that we do.
That's a good segue. My guess, top of mind item for you as a shop owner, and probably what you hear in your 20 group, is staffing and where am I going to find that next technician? It's interesting. 5 years ago, they talked about, an aspirational the $100,000 technician. I think that number is a lot scarier now.
We're there.
I was going to say we're there. I think that number is now 150 or more.
Yes.
And I think as we see these electronic vehicles come out, I think that could be 200 in 5 to 10 years.
I think we're going to have multi technicians. We're going to have the ones to do the repairs in the vehicle. You're going to have the electronics person to do the electrification issues. You're going to have the programming person to do all of the module and programmings that we see today. And that's just increasing with every year. I mean, we used to have 2 and 3 computers on a vehicle, and now you have 8, 10, 12, depending upon the manufacturer. I can see that we're not just going to have one tech that does it all. We're going to have very specialized technicians in the different areas. But yeah, the $100,000 techs and your good shops are there now.
Wow. Anything else top of mind right now that you're currently concerned about, that you're seeing in the industry, in the marketplace?
The technician shortage is real. It's opening up this year. I'm involved in 3 different groups with the Institute, and I've heard the most shops finding qualified technicians in the last 3 or 4 months. So whether the big C COVID word had anything to do with that, or I think we're starting to get some people to move, to not stay in a job that they're not seeing their value in. And we just talked about accountability in the group process, and how that's changed to the traditional versus inspiring accountability. And it's no longer okay just to have a job and a paycheck. Employees want to feel valued. They want to feel that their voice is heard. They want to feel that they're making a difference in the company that they're working for, that they're not just a number. Little bit of generational things there. We've heard all of the millennial talk in the news and stuff, but I think it goes even deeper than that. Even people in my generation who I want to do something that's going to be impactful and that's going to make a difference, not necessarily just provide for my family. So I'm hoping that the technicians out there who may be listening to this, go to your local independent family-owned business, because we do things differently and you do make a big difference. Don't be afraid to leave that dealer because you think you have some comfort there and some stability. We are just as stable. And I think that's a big difference. But finding qualified people, even as a service advisor, as a porter, as a bookkeeper, making an impact is what we're looking for. So I'm hoping that the job market is continuing to stay open a little bit, but the technician shortage is scary, and we've been talking a lot in our group process that we need to grow our own. So get that early young apprentice who has, just some aspirations of working with their hands and growing them into an A-level diagnostician who's going to be able to bring in a Mercedes with, an electrical issue and find it quickly. It's exciting to see the ones that we have and that we've known. I have 2 in my shop. There's many of our group members who are starting to see that that's how we need to grow our own. And I hope that continues, that definitely that continues, because we're going to be out of techs if we don't do that.
Definitely. I think the stigma, a little bit of what we talked about, your very old school shop, $60 labor rate. If I'm a new technician right out of school, they probably got me sweeping the floors and cleaning and doing kind of all that type of work. And why would I want to be especially if I'm highly skilled and I'm passionate about what I'm doing? I think that would knock me right down. I had to go through and slug my way through that type of work, and they'll call it pay your dues and rising through the ranks. But I mean, these kids are coming out of these programs very highly skilled, very knowledgeable. And you got to keep them interested and keep them in for the long haul. I mean, the opportunities are there. It's just a matter of, go ahead.
No, go ahead. No, we just had John Waffler is the lead facilitator for the Institute, and he wears glasses. And I've seen this speech happen so many times. He lowers his glasses and he says, if I hear any of you bringing in an excited, young, hungry person into the industry and you give them a broom, I'm going to take the broom and I'm going to do something with it. Crack it over your head, because again, we're taking 10 steps backwards. Get them involved in some good diagnostics. Get them involved with the different information and tech systems that we have. Don't let them sweep the floors. Don't make them, just that low level tire changer and oil changer. Get them involved in some of the higher level repairs, because we need to train our own and we need to keep them involved. So he just gave that discussion in the last round of meetings a couple of times that I heard. So it's funny that you mentioned that.
that I love to hear that's getting preached out there, because I came from a dealership background, and it was definitely, if you came in, I mean, you were doing grunt work. You're essentially, you didn't even get to wrench at first. You had to go just clean and be essentially a porter. Mm-hmm. And then you became an oil change, a quick lube guy. And then you got to be doing tires. And, I can understand why they groomed the technician the way they did and why so many left the industry, is because there's enough people out there that want to do that type of work. Those are probably actually some of the easiest technicians to go find right now, are the ones that just want to go do that base level work, and they want to clock in, change some stuff, and clock out, and they're done for the day. And that's great. You need those in your shop, but you need the people that are going to progress, and really nurturing those people is so key. And that's what's going to keep them around.
And the industry has so many great programs like the Napa apprenticeship program. You can find a 4-year laid out step program that takes you through, okay, you advance to these skills. These are the tools that you need are required for this level. This is the pay range that we're looking at. This is the training that either they offer or you can get in your local area. So you don't have to reinvent that wheel and come up with a program all by yourself. You can go out, and there's other programs besides Napa that does that. But it's putting a formalized program together to keep you on track and to make sure that they're advancing and not slipping through the cracks, I think is as important as not ever giving them a broom.
Yeah, there's no reason to recreate the wheel on that the program is there, it's available. Once they exhibit those abilities and skills at this certain level and they take the test, they advance, they get a raise. They exhibit some more skills, they advance, they take the test, they may get a raise. It's a great 4-year program. Phenomenal.
And don't be afraid to give that raise.
Yeah.
Because if you're not, someone else is going to. And you're going to have, however long invested into training them, and they're going to leave because you're not offering them the best opportunity. So don't be afraid to give them the raise. And if you don't think you can afford it, raise your labor rate.
And now you can afford it. Oh,
Absolutely.
Those are some of my favorite words I'm hearing in this podcast today. Raise your labor rate. Don't make them sweep the floors. I like the broom story. I'm going to start telling that to other people.
And charge more than the dealership.
Yes.
Charge more than the dealership.
And be proud of it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Eric, what's funny is we didn't even get into anything marketing and anything car counts right now, which is a whole nother 2-hour discussion. There's a lot of shops that think they have discovered the silver bullet. They think that they have implemented the magic serum in their shops because they're booked out. Well, magic serum is running out. You're going to return to normal. If you haven't had your foot on that accelerator for marketing, you're going to quickly discover it wasn't you, it was the circumstances.
Correct. So having a good website, making sure that it's search engine optimized, having a solid CRM program. I use Kakui, which I know, Jimmy Lea, you're very familiar with.
Yep.
But we've done the basics and taking care and looked after the basics to making sure that we are staying in front of those customers on a regular basis. They don't just come to my shop and then get a text or an email saying, oh, how was our service? There's follow-up for the recommended services that they didn't do. There's monthly specials that we put out. There's tips. There's blogs. There's, videos that we do. We had this interesting vehicle or interesting repair, so we make a short video of it, share that with our customers. And I don't do a lot of direct mail. That hasn't been effective for us because, in my opinion, our customers are transient with the military base. So Google is our friend. So feeding Google anything that Google wants to make sure that we're being found by someone new in the area, but also that CRM. Don't think that just because you gave them a good experience the first time they came that they're going to come back to you. You need to stay in front of your customers and be top of mind. And paying attention to car count is important. If I see my active customer count, which is something I look at on a monthly basis, start to dip at all, my first phone call is to the people who do my marketing. And I have a couple of different programs in place for that and saying, okay, we need to tweak here. We need to tweak there. Google AdWords has been fantastic for us, and I'm not spending a ton of money there. I know shops who are spending $1,000, $1,500, $2,000. I'm not anywhere near that, but they know what they're doing and they know what keywords to pick, and we change them if something starts to drop off. So having your eye on that ball, again, in the owner's seat, not the technician or service advisor seat, you can't pay attention to it if you're in one of those other seats, is important too.
That's you kind of hit everything. We kind of do the same thing, right? We have a professionally done website, CRM. We're tracking pretty much all those different stats, and every shop owner should be spending the time on that. They need to make sure that those bays are filled. And like Jimmy said, I think that the naturalized flow that we saw from this big infusion of money is drying up, and you need to stay top of mind. Top of mind awareness is just a huge thing. It doesn't mean they're going to get a piece of contact and they're going to come in right back in the door, right? No, you just need to know when they need that thing done on their car or the maintenance light comes on, they're coming to you because you've been in touch with them.
Yes. On a regular basis. I have a coaching client who says, well, I'm going to have all of my customers unsubscribe if I email them monthly. No, you're not. If you email them daily, yes, but not monthly. No. You need that constant contact. And going back to those basics in the slowdown, because we're starting to see it. We're starting to go back to pre-COVID times, I think, as far as customer interaction goes right now. So if you do see that drop, what is your marketing doing or not doing? What are your SOPs and your processes doing or not doing? Go back to the basics. Are you doing thorough vehicle inspections? Are you doing digital vehicle inspections and sharing that with your customers? Are your service advisors following the 300% rule, which is inspecting every vehicle, estimating all of the services, and then presenting everything to the customer? There's so many little basics that we need sometimes to be reminded of if things start to fall off. And I'm guilty of that too. You get in the circle and you think, oh, everything's going great. And then one thing starts to fall and it's like you have to go around that circle again and touch every point that you've touched before just to make sure that all those processes are correct. So.
Hey, the whole NFL spends some time in the off season just going back through the fundamentals, reinstalling the playbook, getting everybody on board. And they don't install all the cool new things until late in the off season, right? You have to go back and re-look at those fundamentals, back to basics. Every cycle of the season should be that fundamental.
You don't start with the trick plays, you start with the basic blocks.
Exactly. Sometimes it goes down to just blocking and tackling, getting that right. Well, this has been very insightful. I think anybody who's going to listen to this podcast says, I got a whole page of notes of just takeaway items that I had alone that I want to go talk to my shop owner clients about. Any last piece of wisdom, advice, words for our listeners?
Well, just to plug for the Institute again, I'm a little biased to this process because I have been involved in this specific process, but it works for a reason. If you're not going to be involved with the Institute, get involved in a coaching group of some kind, because there's so much information out there that a single shop owner is never going to be able to expose themselves to. And a group process or a 20 group gives them that access and that enlightenment to all of these different items. And we've talked about accounting, and we've talked about your numbers. We've talked about marketing. We've talked about hiring. You don't learn this stuff you can learn it on your own, but it's much more difficult and much more timely than if you get involved in some type of group process. So I'm plugging the Institute, but I also believe in my core, that my shop would not be where it is had it not been for this process at all. And I've said that on Carm Capriato's podcast. I've said that in front of a room of, a couple hundred shop owners at the Institute Summit. It's not something that I'm saying just because I'm associated with the Institute. I believe it as a shop owner because I've lived it. I'm proof of it.
Totally. Any last words from you, Jimmy? I think we might have to do a part 2 on just how to market your shop for upcoming downturn.
Yeah. Well, I'd love to do that with you. I'll tell you that the world is a deep end type of experience, and it's a sink or swim. So here we are, all in the deep end. Let's lock arms. Let's be in this storm together. Not all ships are created equal. It's a crazy storm we're in. Is your ship going to survive this storm? And if you don't think you're in a storm, you're kidding yourself. We're in a storm, and together we can survive it and do it better.
Yeah, I think we've got a double whammy. We've got post-COVID and a possible upcoming recession. Or if you believe that we're already in it, we're already in it.
We got something coming. We're still figuring out what exactly it is, but it's something, and we got to be prepared.
Yes.
Well, thanks, listeners, for tuning in. If you want to learn more about the Institute for Automotive Business Excellence or Service Plus Automotive, we will link their socials and their websites inside the podcast info. And thanks for listening. Thanks for tuning in. And Jennifer and Jimmy, thank you for your time. And we'll catch you next time.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thanks for having us.
You have been listening to the Blood, Sweat, and Business podcast. You can hear more real stories from real business owners about what it takes to make it in business by subscribing to the podcast on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. If you like what you hear, leave a review and a 5-star rating. This podcast has been brought to you by Kaizen CPAs and Advisors, providing advisory and accounting services to help you grow your business. Learn more at kaizencpas.com.